Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of WholesomeHammer, where we explore the hobby, the game, and the lore of Warhammer 40k. We're your hosts, Nurgle Snurgle and BlushingNoiseMarine. This week, we're discussing the tools that go into realizing the grimdark future of the 41st millennium. And if you're enjoying this journey so far, don't forget to give us a follow. Our quote this week is from Ferrus Manus. I feel like we gave him a little bit of a hard time last week, so we'll give some Ferrus love to those iron hands.
We'll let him shine.
So they're not my hands. This fact is forgotten by my brothers. Inexplicably, it has always seemed to me. The hands are strong, to be sure, and have created great things for us all, but they are not mine. So I thought that was a nice way to think about tools, and that's all they are to Ferrus Manus, those
his
iron hands.
Yeah. He lost his hand, right? Is he the one that lost his hand?
No, he lost his head.
His head, but...
to Fulgrim. And it was great. Hot take.
We were trying to lift up Ferrus, but now we're pooping on him.
Doesn't take long to get right back down. Fulgrim did nothing wrong.
Never.
You can at me.
None of the Chaos Gods did anything wrong.
But a Chaos Primarch did. Named Magnus.
Yeah, he does everything wrong. Ooh!
Actually, as I was looking for quotes today, one of Magnus's quotes is, "I did everything wrong," so...
Is it really? So...
Yes.
So the quote, "Magnus did nothing wrong," is actually misinformation, and he's actually admitted that...
I think it's actually propaganda from Ahriman.
Yeah.
Because Ahriman also did everything wrong.
Yeah. Oh, so he's trying to say we did nothing wrong.
Right?
But no one's gonna believe that.
I saw I was listening to something recently, and they referred to the Thousand Sons as Tzeentch's third favorite legion, and I felt like that was appropriate. The first being
What's
the Space Wolves.
Oh.
Well, the Thousand Sons are Tzeentch's legion, but they're always Tzeentch is just doesn't really care about them, and they're always getting screwed over, whereas the Space Wolves always are just doing whatever they want and getting whatever they want, but they're still led by their word readers that are clearly psychers.
Yeah. Clearly not psychers.
Anyways, this is supposed to be an episode about tools, and we're already getting back into lore, and I have no regrets. But there's a ton of tools that go into the hobby and game of Warhammer 40k, and today we're going to be talking about some of the options out there and how best to use them. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is going to be another Snurgle-heavy episode, because I am a jank hammerist at heart. I love the jank. I live in the jank.
I love it too. There's a lot of janks out there, and I admire it all. I know that it may not seem like I'm jank, but I'm also jank as well.
We were talking about this before we got started, and even talking about the two of us showing up at a tournament, and I have my tanks in a shopping bag, and with paper towel keeping them from breaking each other, and all of my stuff's in random bags and whatever, and then Nurgle shows up with everything in these nice boxes, and everything's put together, and you have your tablet that you keep your scoring on, and it's all very pristine, and I'm I don't know where anything is. I live in the jank.
I'm jealous of your grocery bag case. I wish I could do that, but my models will turn into what was it, the barrel of monkeys, where they're all just attached. Especially the Tzeentch, the horrors.
It's honestly, it's easier to do with Tau models because they don't stick together as well. They're not as spiky. As I'm getting more Chaos tanks, they're starting to I have a Land Raider now and a Chaos Predator, and they sometimes get a little interwoven. So I might have to upgrade a little bit. Well, there's a lot of spiky bits on them. You gotta have the spikes.
Yeah, Tau is so round.
Right? It doesn't stick to anything.
Yeah, if anything, they'll just bounce.
It's almost like it's well engineered or something.
Oh, for the greater good.
So, when it comes to hobbying, painting is obviously the first thing that comes to mind. But I feel like that when we think about tools, though, it's really more about the modeling side where those
Mm-hmm.
really come into play. And like, I don't think you can kit bash without like a little bit of a tool repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
So what's kind of your tool shelf look like? Your toolbox?
Oh my. I think you'd be quite shocked of what we have. Let's just say definitely during COVID, I may have visited Amazon twice or two or once or twice. But we probably have, if not all the tools. You name
All
it,
the tools.
we probably have. We even have up to a Proxon table, which is a hot wire table to cut the pink foam. This was actually pre-COVID, but like especially pre-COVID, we were really into hobbying and building because we were really getting into role playing and that type of games, and we were into building tables and sceneries for that. Like I've built like a corn stadium, and we only used it once, but it was just so much fun to build. So we
Do you still
watched a lot
have
of.
it?
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah, yeah,
When
yeah, yeah.
would
It's actually we built it in a way where it could disassemble, so it's just like in the closet, and yeah, it was really cool. Like we have like the corn symbol, and like we put lights in it. Like we went all out, and it was just. I think we were watching a lot of Black Magic Craft at the time, and got really inspired. And there was another. Just a couple YouTubers, and we just watched, and we were just like, "Hey, let's do that! Hey, let's do that!" And we picked up all the tools on the way, and we just kind of built like a workshop in our tiny apartment.
honestly, I have a newborn, and one of the many YouTube rabbit holes I've gone down is terrain building, and it's one thing that like
Mm-hmm.
when I have a little more time, I really want to explore because that actually seems more appealing to me than like getting better at painting. Like especially
Mm-hmm.
some of the stuff. There was one thing I saw this guy makes like tiles for D&D,
Yes.
and they
Yep.
like magnetize together, and I was like, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I love that idea. So like I get it. I get it.
Yeah, and like our good friend Matt from Mini World Masters, um, he purchased a lot of Dwarven Forge, uh, dungeon tiles, and buildings. So when we would role play, we would have like a 6x4 table fully kitted out, and it really puts yourself in the immersive role play. And we even built like. Uh, Traps for these dungeons. So we use like toothpicks and like beads and flames, and it was just, it really puts yourself into a more creative aspect. Just instead of building, you're pretty much crafting, which is really fun.
I mean, that's I didn't even think we were gonna go this way, and this is already super cool. And now I want to see the corn stadium. I want.
I'll, yeah, I
Can
was
we
actually
play
looking.
a game in the corn stadium?
It's not that big. It's only like maybe, well, it was like 3 feet by 3 feet, but
That sounds like a combat patrol.
it's that true. Like it actually, okay, so it had like a stadium on the sides. It had a lava pit. I bought special like paper so it looked like dragon skin. I made bones. So one thing I really like to do is take something unconventional and make it work. I think that's kind of like the chef side of me, like just make it work kind of thing. So I took like really thin twigs, cut them up, and then put them in like a bucket with white paint and swirled it all around, and I got like little tiny bones.
That's awesome.
hmm I have been thinking about making a video about it. Like, it's kind of funny that we're talking about this now, but I was scrolling through my phone. I was like, oh man, that was such a good time. So you can check out my Instagram probably the next week or so. Or if you do scroll like through the 800 posts, you'll find it there.
That seems like a big commitment, but I think I know I'm going to look forward to seeing that because that sounds really friggin' cool.
Oh, and I could kind of go. I do miss that part. Like we've even made alien planets, and yeah. So we picked up a lot of tips and tricks, and I'm kind of reminiscing now. So sorry, we'll get back to the
This
tools.
is, you know what? This is starting to sound like an episode in of itself. So look out in the future for a
There we
terrain
go.
building episode.
Yes, and I will share all like the hacks that we picked up along the way. Like I'll share one really quick one. You can take a tea light, get like cotton buy like a dollar store pillow, something that's cheap. Take the cotton from the inside, glue it to the tea light, spray it like quickly black, and then you have fire. You have smoke and fire for your table. It just really like adds that oomph to the table.
Love it.
Sorry.
We're getting real fancy already.
Yeah.
Have all these tips and tricks, and there's no battle reports to go along with it. It feels wasted.
No. But I guess like if you want to call yourself jank, I guess I'm bougie.
You know what? That doesn't sound bougie though. That's still very like doing it all of on your own though is like a ton of work. That's more like artisanal or like crafted.
But if you love it, it never feels like work.
Like bougie would be buying all of that. Like if you were like
True.
buying pre-made terrain and like pre-painted stuff and like had a whole collection, that's like the bougie way.
I'm all about like how can I make this the cheapest? Like there was actually I don't want to go too deep into this, but like I am all about like go cheap, use even garbage. Like I even wanted to do a type of charity type of thing where I go out on the streets and I find garbage or I find recyclable things that I can reuse and make into terrain. So like recycle.
That's some artisanal, local, free range Warhammer right there.
Yeah. Organic Warhammer.
Granola hammer, is that?
Granola hammer.
It's very crunchy.
Okay, so yes.
I think to get maybe into the discussion a little bit about like hobbying specifically. I think
what
like
we were trying to get at, I have all the tools. So what kind of tools do you have?
Okay, so I have a hobby knife.
Okay.
And I have sprue cutters. And I use a nail file for sanding. And I have glue, and which you told me earlier is a tool. So, and then paintbrushes, and I use a glass of water for my water.
Yep.
And I paint on paper towel.
The paper towel is so interesting to me.
And I don't even use a palette. Like it's literally just like on the paper towel.
Have you tried a wet palette?
I've never even tried a dry palette, so I don't even know what that is.
A paper towel is a dry palette. It's just basically like, is it wet or is it dry? And your paper towel is classified as a wet or a dry palette. If you add a piece of parchment on top and you put it on like a lid, add some water, you got a wet palette.
That sounds a little fancy and sophisticated, but I'll think about it.
Okay.
But no, my setup is pretty jank, and even the way I like play is pretty jank too. So, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. But I think if we're talking about tools for hobbying, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is paintbrushes. So I use some 15-year-old beaten to hell Citadel paintbrushes that probably should go in the garbage. What do you use?
When you say 15-year-old, like you as the 15-year-old?
Well, yeah.
Or are they 15 years old?
Well, both. I'm 30, so that's kind of the math works either way.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's true.
But yeah, no, they're like the first brushes I bought.
Oh.
I still have a fine detail brush, which is not called that anymore.
Is
I
it
also still call them
like a
washes, which is
stipple brush now?
I don't even know what they, but it's like it's the tiniest, like you can do eyeballs with it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's brushes that just have one function and one function only. Most of
Uh,
that's like eyeballs.
you can do some trim with it too. Like I've used it for some of the smaller bits, like on like legionaries, doing the gold trim. Um, but it's so old that the brush like curves. So like you have to like
Oh,
work with the curve of the bristles now because it's like
yeah.
sat wrong for too long.
Like in the water pot.
Well, probably just like up against a wall in a closet for 10 years is probably
Oh,
where
there you
it
go.
formed that, like, because it's not even like a gentle curve. It's like it just like comes out and then shoots to the side.
Oh, but you know what? I also have those type of brushes, and they're great to like hook under some armor to get to the difficult spots.
We can say that it's intentional.
Yes, it's true.
But what does your paintbrush selection look like?
Oh, I don't even want to say. Okay, oh my god. Okay, so prior to Warhammer, I did a lot of painting as well. So I did like oil painting, watercolor painting. So I probably have about 30 to 40 paintbrushes. Could
Damn.
be more. I haven't done the inventory on it. But a lot, like some of it's like either given from Jared's family. Like his mom is also a painter. She does ceramics, so she's given paintbrushes to us. Most of it's just dollar store paintbrushes, getting in a pack. Especially with like the terrain building that I was talking about. You don't want to use your fancy two-haired paintbrushes for it. So we have just a lot of brushes, a lot of flat brushes. I just love art, and I have a lot of art supplies. I feel like I
Now,
could do classes here, I guess.
now do you okay? I see people making videos with it, and you know, like the brushes that have like come to that perfect point, though.
Do I have that?
Yes.
No. I am horrid with my paintbrushes, and Blood God can attest to. He's, I think he like chastised, not like in a mean way, but he's just like, Kaylee, you gotta be better with your paintbrushes. Or I had like a cup with some paintbrushes sitting. Don't judge, but I was thinking of doing like a video of like how to clean your paintbrushes, even if they look like this.
Was that to encourage you to maybe clean your brushes, or
Yeah, I have cleaned my brushes. I try to be nice to them, but again, not the best. I'm not a saint. I know there's a lot of videos out there like don't do this to your paintbrushes and you're doing it wrong, but it just that's not how I am sometimes, I guess. Like sometimes I have left a paintbrush in the water for too long.
what are we gonna do with you?
I hear the judgment.
I mean, I just told you about my paintbrush that like the bristles go sideways. So like I have the judgment is not coming from me. It is coming from
It's
our
coming
listeners.
from me.
It's self-judgment. You know what? It's
Well,
interesting.
I feel like I'm like airing dirty laundry. Like I feel like my palms are sweaty. Like
knees are weak.
yes, mom's spaghetti.
You know what? It's interesting though because I would classify you as like a top-notch painter, and like I always kind of assumed that you needed the like premium paintbrush like to carry you to that level. So I'm actually kind of interested that that's not your situation, and maybe you can talk a little bit about like how you are still this like fantastic, talented, amazing painter who doesn't necessarily use like top notch tools.
I I guess I don't know what to really say because I haven't ever used the top notch tools, and I have heard that like once you do, you don't really go back. But I don't necessarily like that, because I like each paintbrush that I have does have like a certain function to it, or like, oh, I'm gonna be dry brushing and I grab this brush, or I need something small or thick or flat. And I have that repertoire instead of like only having 4 really expensive brushes. I do have a couple brushes that I try to keep the point, because having a point is very important. And the ones that have served me the best actually were Citadel brushes. The layer brush, I think both of them have done that. But yeah, I don't have the expensive brushes. How do I paint with nerdy brushes? I don't know. It just kind of works.
Well,
A
maybe
lot of
we'll.
it has to do with technique, though. Like, it's not the tool itself, it's like how you use the tool. Like, say, here's a little story. Blood God and I were first dating in a restaurant, and he bought me a knife. It was $40. And the chef at the time kind of teased him for it, like, oh, how do you go about getting like the cheapest type of knife? It was my most favorite knife. It felt good, it worked with me, and I still have the knife to this day. So you don't need to get the $200-$300 tool to do the exact same outcome that you're looking for.
That's
So
fair.
So it all depends on how it feels and how it extends from yourself.
So if somebody was getting into the hobby, what are maybe kind of the basic tools you think would help them get to a point where they would feel maybe proud of what they're accomplishing?
Everything that you have, everything that you touched on, is the basics that you need. Like, you have your hobby knife, you have your paints, you have your glass water cup. Like, for the longest time, I was using a Nutella plastic just container for my water pot. So a lot of people would make fun of me. Like, in the picture, they'd be like, "Oh, your Nutella cup, blah 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 blah." I don't care.
Now, I will say the hobby knife is a new addition for me, and it does make things easier. I used to do like, with the nail file and the sprue cutters, like cleaning off mold lines, because again, I live in the jank. So the hobby knife has been like a game changer in a lot of ways.
So yeah, like, I would say for your basics, you can just level up. Like, say, the first level, you need paint. Your second level, you need water. Your third level, you need a palette. And that's pretty much, like, you can sit around those first couple levels, but then you start growing more, and you start understanding, and just grow from there. Like, I wouldn't recommend someone out there to get every tool in the toolbox. Learn how to use the basics first, grow your foundation, and then find what works for you from there.
Now, if we do want to level up a little further, what do we start looking at? And how do we maybe build that out?
I know I said I was rough with my brushes, but I do recommend brush soap. There is a brand called the Masters brush soap that can bring back your ruined brushes and keep the longevity of them. It kind of acts like a shampoo, so if you look at your brush, it's kind of like hair, so you want to kind of clean it once in a while. It gets kind of gunky, and brush soap. You could probably try using regular soap. I haven't done that, but so yeah, the brush soap helps a lot to keep the longevity. Oh, one of the basics I see there is Also, lighting will also improve your painting. You can't paint in the dark. But yeah, so advanced sprue cutters. You use it as a basic, but they help you take the models off the sprues.
Now, you know what? The only reason I classify it as basic is when I started, GW was more about the sprue cutters than the hobby knife. Like the sprue cutters were like considered the basic way of like getting into like modeling, and now they've reversed it that the hobby knife is.
Yeah.
So like I have sprue cutters because I was like, oh, that's just how you like trim them off. And like I don't even know if GW sold a hobby knife back then. So
Maybe because Blood God still has his old tools, and I think he still has the old hobby knife handle because he still has like the original clippers, and man, are they
that's what I
chewed
have.
up?
They're like,
Are they chewed up?
Yeah, there's some like nicks and stuff in the blades. Like they're not.
Yeah.
They're a little. But the other thing is the plastic used to be harder. So like the plastic was harder on them too. So yeah, they're a little rough around the edges.
So other tools is like a cutting mat for your hobby knife. You don't want to ruin your workspace. You can elevate to using a airbrush. That is a little bit more advanced. That takes a lot of research on it. Watching tutorials on how to use it, how to clean it is very important because it is not a cheap device. And you can easily ruin it first try. So that's in its own little bubble on airbrushing and how to. One thing that's elevated my painting recently is using a magnifying glass with a light to see the details, because I am going to get older and I want to keep my eyes straight. And then you can get paint stripper as well, and organizing boxes for your bits, especially if you hobby a lot. I think that's helped Blood God a lot as well. When I first started hobbying with him, he kind of just had like shoe boxes and regular boxes just full of bits. It's like, no, we gotta, let's organize this. And so we just got all those like little plastic tackle boxes from dollar store, and he organized them from like Tyranid bits, Chaos bits, Nurgle bits, and that's I highly recommend organizing your bits.
I'm curious now why you have Tyranid bits.
Because we have a Tyranid army.
Do you?
Yeah. And Blood God has gone through so many phases of like, I'm going to sell the army. I'm like, don't. We actually probably have up to 2,000 points of Tyranids. I know the shocked Pikachu face is all over you.
How did this not come up when we were talking to Tyler last week?
Because I didn't want to take away from his Tyranids.
But you're talking to the Swarm Lord himself, and your Tyranid army doesn't come up. That's
It's not mine, but it's Blood God's. But yeah, he has more of like a
household Tyranid army.
Yes. One roof.
I did want to just go back. You said paint stripper. Don't just use any paint stripper on, like, don't turpentine, and your models are not going to go well together. Make sure you use a miniature paint stripper, not just like anything you find at a hardware store, because you will melt them.
Yeah, and anything that we say, or if you want to elevate your repertoire, is to do your research, because there's going to be some things like, especially art supplies, or there's some toxic art supplies, and one tool to really have is ventilation. Like, that's really important when you're hobbying as well. So keep that in mind as well.
Are you telling me you don't prime your models in a basement?
I don't want to tell you how we prime our models, because I'll get no. I can't tell you. Blood God has done it in a basement on the DL. So
I also have. That's why I was making the joke.
Yeah. We may or
Uh,
may not do it outside of a window sometimes.
ooh. I try and do it outside, but I think we said this on another episode, but we're not in the most gracious climate for priming.
No.
So it doesn't always work out.
No. You find ways, though. You get creative.
Now, on the list here, you also have a hand drill, and I've never
Mm-hmm.
done it, but I do have a single model with like the gun barrel barreled out, and it does look good.
How'd you do it?
I didn't do it. It's
Oh.
a model I bought from someone else, and that's why it's
Mm-hmm.
done.
I would actually recommend getting one. This comes in handy to drill your barrels, but also if you want to get into pinning and pinning your model to the base, what that is just taking like a thin piece of, say, paper clip type of wire, putting that through your model and then through the base so it can be more stable to the base. I just recently started doing this in the last couple years. At first, of course, I was very nervous doing it. Like, you never want to take such a tool to a model, but because you can't guarantee if it's going to go through the other side, like through your model. But it just, especially when you're traveling all the time, pinning your models helps to keep them stable and keeps them from popping off the base.
I know that's a key skill if you want to build knights. So it's actually one of the things, because I've never done it before, that I've always kind of wanted to build a few of the Chaos Knights, but it's kept me away because I know they're not the most stable miniature.
Oh, interesting. It's actually
It's,
oh, okay, yes. I did pin the knight. The one knight I did, yes. Yeah, they're a little top heavy.
Yeah, like I've heard, like you need to kind of pin throughout to give them some structure, because for how big they are, they don't have as many connection points as they probably should.
Mm-hmm. I also magnetize them too, so
that's if we have a third category, magnetizing is like dreamland for me. And I play Tau. Like, I would benefit from learning how to magnetize, and I'm like, no, thank you.
It's not out of the realm of possibilities.
It's
you
so
can
scary.
Do it, Laura. I understand those jitters, and it's like, it's something new. Oh my goodness.
Right?
But once you do it, of course, it's like, what was I so scared about?
No, you just buy more crisis suits and have different loadouts on all of them, and that just keeps you buying more. That's how you get your cluster crack in. Just have more suits.
Yeah.
Now, when we're talking about modeling, obviously, 3D printers have become like such a big thing for some people, and even I was looking at is it Mini Wargamer Dave's new line, the Damned, like the proxy armies have also become like super available. How do you feel about kind of including those tools in your repertoire?
I think they're fantastic. Like, I love 3D printing. It's freedom at that point. Is the quality as top as GW? Of course not. But it doesn't even have to be just modeled. You can print terrain. You can print beer bottles for your dudes, or little mushrooms. Like, the possibilities are endless when it comes to 3D printing. I'm not shocked that 3D printing is really big with miniature models and art, but I'd like to see 3D printing come more in people's lives. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of there's a huge learning curve as well, and you need the space, you need ventilation, and lots of studies towards it. But I love it. What do you think of it?
You know what? I was never necessarily interested in it until recently, and I was actually looking up who kind of changed my mind on it. There's an Instagram, Alessandra Plays 40K, and she's doing the Daughters of Guilliman.
Okay.
So it's all
Wow.
custom heads, not all, but
Mm-hmm.
like the sergeants, and there's a custom Gulliman head.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all like women space marines, and it's not like it's a ton of kit bashing, but it just like adds a unique flavor. And like she's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic hobbyist. Like the faces look great,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just
Yeah.
like a little change that kind of changes the entire character of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what, I could see wanting to do that, like just like add your own little flair and touch to some of your models. And like especially like playing Emperor's Children, I'm like the GW's Noise Marine kits are rough. And like I can
Mm-hmm.
see wanting to like maybe have some better bits to like make your Noise Marines a little more noisy boy.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that was kind of the first thing that I thought. I was like, you know what, I would like to kind of explore that concept someday. I don't have a 3D printer.
Mm-hmm.
um
But I'm,
but
I'm
yeah,
sure you could find someone like in this hobby. There's going to be either someone with one, or someone that knows someone that has one.
yeah, so no, I definitely like that was the first thing that got me to kind of see the potential beyond just like printing miniatures or like
Mm-hmm.
printing a different model. Like I've seen some of the, I think we even talked about some of the 3D printed like keepers of secrets,
Mm-hmm.
um where those kind of look a little like different, and like if you want a different flavor. But for just
Mm-hmm.
adding some extra flavor to a model, I was like, you know what, that's more exciting to me.
Can I share a business idea that I think GW should do? So I
Only if GW gives us money,
I know.
if they do it.
Well, we have it um marked that I'm saying it now, but anyways, um I always had the idea that GW should have their own 3D printers in their store, and that you could order bits from them. So you could
Oh,
I've seen so many people that are like, I'm missing this one bit, or I can't find this. And wouldn't it be fantastic if you could go to GW or even from the store and be like, hey, I want to order this, and then it gives you a time frame, and then you show up and there's your bit.
I have a few miniatures that just like I have a piranha that doesn't have the bottom part of the floor anymore. Like just stuff that like you'd have to buy a whole new kit to get a few of those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually drives me nuts they don't do it. And that's not just like a business idea. That's just like it's stupid they don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
So
100%, that should just be like mark it up. Like I don't care if it's $5 for like a single piece, like
yep.
whatever.
They will probably make more. Like, I know some people are going to say, like, but they make more money if you buy the whole model. But, like, how many times do you not buy that model because it's just so pricey and you're not going to buy it for one bit? But if it was at $5, you're going to buy it.
Yeah, like I would rather have a complete model. Like I use it still.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like when it's on the tabletop, it doesn't look any different. It's just like if you look closely at it, you're like, oh, there's no bottom to this. So yeah, it's one of those like it's not super necessary, but yeah, if I could make it look nicer, I would.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to spend $60 on a whole new kit.
Exactly.
I would just build another one of them and have more.
Yep. So it's either $5 or nothing.
Right?
That would kind of help combat their fight against 3D printers.
Yeah, and I even, you know what? Speaking, because this, you got me riled up. You got me on a topic I didn't even think I was going to get to. I've looked online, and there is a few resellers of bits, but it's like stupid expensive because you're shipping like a single piece of plastic, so it's like $20, $25. Whereas like if GW is doing it, then they would be able to do it more economically. Like just even if they just broke up some of the kits. And you could like order alongside, like they're shipping to their stores anyways. Throw in a few like to order bits and like
or you don't even have to package it like from the factory itself. Like here's just a couple random
in a plastic baggie. Like you're telling me there's not.
Did they not do that? Didn't they used to do that?
I think with Forge World stuff, if there's issues, they'll do it for you.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Forge World's a little more unreliable. So they'll like they will replace bits, but I don't know if GW, they might have like a long time ago. I don't know. But no, you got me all fired up on that because
Okay.
yeah, no, it's silly they don't. Like for
Yeah.
how expensive a product it is,
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't need. I don't care if it's affordable. It just make it like vaguely reasonable.
And available,
Yeah.
like an
Ugh.
option. So sorry.
Well,
I guess we got another topic for another podcast.
I mean, that would just be ranting about things GW should do, which I feel like could be like a whole season. But
we
no.
could just do one episode of like, hey GW, we're here to help.
But no, that one's one that kind of I get a little fired up about that because it just doesn't make any sense to me that they don't do
Okay.
it. But
Okay, we can move on.
next question.
Yes.
And honestly, I have some feelings about this one personally from my history. But plastic versus super glue, where do you stand?
They both have their own functions, and I use both.
I avoid super glue like the plague, and it's purely because I grew up with multi-part metal and plastic kits.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have a few
You're
that I
so.
like. I have to. You have to maintain them because they don't stay together.
Yeah.
So I like super glue frustrates me so much, and I use plastic glue whenever I can, even if it's not necessarily the best option.
I guess I could clarify. I do use plastic glue for models only, and then super glue for like basing material, obviously. So if we were speaking strictly like plastic on the models, yes, plastic glue all the way.
Fair enough. Because I do know there are some people that super glue models, like they don't use plastic glue at all. So I wasn't sure where you stood.
But they snap too easily, like you
They
said.
do.
It doesn't create a bond. Like, so what plastic glue, what's happening is it's melting the plastic and it's creating that like friction bond between the two. Whereas super glue is just the glue in between. It's not making any surface area bind.
Yeah, it's a different super glue will eventually like degrade and snap.
And like get all that powdery whiteness. But yes, so I am with you with plastic.
And have it eventually super glue doesn't glue to itself. So after enough like reapplications, you eventually have to scrape it all out. Like I talking about some of those multi-part miniatures, there's a few that like I've had to like attack with just like a knife to carve out all the super glue that's built up over the years on them. So
I'm sure you are making a lot of memories with people, like they're reminiscing with you right now.
So broadsides used to be one of those. Like you would have a plastic crisis suit that you would attach metal bits to.
Oh my.
So the guns were metal. So the broadsides guns were, so you have this heavy metal gun that you used to put on the top of them, on the shoulders. So that they were top heavy. The contact point on them was tiny. So they constantly break off. Like no matter what you do. And like the way they used to make the kit too was the arms were the missile pods. So you couldn't really, unless you wanted to like completely kit bash the kit, rework it so that the hands had the guns so it was a little more stable. So they were all designed for this like shoulder mounted guns. And yeah, any older Tau players, if you figured out a better way, you were probably smarter than I was. But I love them to death. I think they're more endearing to me than the new kit, but they were hell to actually deal with. We'll be continuing our chat on the Grimdark tools of the future next week, getting into the tools of the game and the lore. And in the meantime, I want to thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided, and you can find us on social media at Nurgle_Snurgle and at BlushingNoiseMarine. And until next time, bye-bye.